Hey everyone, Jason here, digital marketing consultant, and as a business owner, creating YouTube content for the sake of making YouTube content isn't really going to bring you more leads or sales. So in this video, we're going to talk about a simple, actionable plan you can follow to create YouTube content that will actually lead to more customers and leads. Timestamp table of contents in the description, along with some other helpful videos that will take a deeper dive on some of the sections we'll be going through here. Now, the very first step to making sure that you create content that will actually transform into customers in the future, as opposed to just a bunch of content that gets you a bunch of likes and follows and great watch time, is focusing actually on your product. Because what we want to do is produce content that primes people to purchase your product or service. And the best way to do this is to actually start with your product or service and answer the question of what are the top 3 to 4 big problems my product or service solves for people. And specifically, how does it make your ideal customer's life better? And then once you know what those big problems are and you have a general idea of who your ideal customer is, if you don't, I'll link up in the description to a data-driven method to figure out who all those ideal customers should be. But let's say we know what our big problem is that our product or service solves, we have an idea of who our ideal customer is, and once we have these 2 foundational keys, then we can move on to step number 2, which is identifying your ideal customer's experience level. Because chances are there are a lot of different people who could find value in what you provide in your product or service, but we want to make sure that we produce content not just for everyone in your niche or industry, but people who are specifically your ideal customer. So to help illustrate what this would actually look like, let's go through the example of someone who has a bike shop and we're trying to produce content to bring in new customers to our bike shop. Well, looking at experience level, and this is something you can use in your own niche or industry, we can see that there is a wide spectrum of people who could be looking for bikes. We have the veterans who've probably been biking for years and might even be doing racing, and then we have the people who are just mountain biking on the weekend with their friends, and then we have those individuals who are brand new to mountain biking or biking in general and just thinking, you know what, I think this might be a fun hobby, or I might want to do this on the weekend. The type of content we would make and the product or service that we would sell to these people is very different, right? So we want to make sure that when we're looking at our problems and our ideal customers, that we're creating content that represents content that would actually be relevant to them. So if you want to target the new people, then creating a piece of content about endurance training for mountain biking or bike racing probably isn't the best idea, because someone who's new doesn't really want to train. They just want to learn what type of bike or which brand they should be looking at to purchase their first bike, or looking for a local trail for beginners. And so we really want to make sure that we understand where our ideal customer is on the spectrum. And it's important to note that you could have customers across this entire spectrum, but you want to know what piece of content is being produced for which person on the spectrum of experience. Now, when it comes to the actual specific type of content you can create, once you figured out those first 2 foundational keys, you're ready to actually start figuring out, okay, well, what specific type of content should I make? Now, to help kick things off with your research, because this could be a video in and of itself, link in the description to a much deeper dive, let's go through 3 types of content pieces you could put together. The very first one is how to, and this is simply just going to be a tutorial taking someone from, I don't know how to do this, to, oh, I've got it. And the whole purpose of this is to fill an information gap. So your ideal customer, no matter what experience level they have, has a question, concern, or feels like they don't know something. And so the whole purpose of your content is to fill that little gap in whatever they're trying to achieve or learn. So another great example of filling a gap is doing reviews or a decision guide. Now, these are a little different, so I'll go through them. So first, with a review, you're helping someone make a buying decision, right? You're doing the pros and cons of a specific product or a specific service. Now, with a decision guide, you're going through kind of the same methodology, but instead you're helping them make a decision that isn't necessarily directly related to a product or service. So sticking with our biking example here, a review could talk about different biking brands, while a decision guide would talk about specifics of maybe bike components or how to get started with biking that isn't necessarily directly related to a product or service. So a decision guide would talk about what type of bike you should get, what wheels or treads you should be looking at, or what type of bike seat you should be using based upon the type of riding that you're going to do. And then the review would compare different wheels, it would compare different bike brands, and it would compare different bike wheel brands or whatever it may be. Hopefully you get the point. So that's really the main difference between just doing a product review, which you could link up in your description to an Amazon affiliate link or your own e-commerce site. Even if you're doing reviews on something you don't actually sell, it's okay to have something called an affiliate link to another website where you'll get paid if someone actually purchases that product, even if it's not something that you're directly selling. It's a very common practice here on YouTube. And now that we have 3 different types of content you can put together, there are some helpful tools to help you dive into the specifics of the keywords and what to title it, and of course figuring out your video tags. And the best place to go is actually the YouTube suggestions box. So whether you're doing a review, how-to, or a decision guide, you just go to the YouTube suggestions box, or search box I should say, and you'll be able to see all of the different suggestions as you type it in, as if you were your ideal customer or ideal prospect. And so you want to pretend you're them looking up the information. Another great resource is Answer the Public. BuzzSumo and SEMrush will also be very helpful in nailing down specific topics that people really care about. But essentially what you want to do is just make sure once you've gone through this exercise, you go over to YouTube and you start typing in what you think someone would type in order to get the information, and make sure that they're actually videos on that topic already, because videos on that topic means people are actually searching for them. Now let's go through some examples of topics based upon our biking shop example. So here we have the I think it would be fun, biking on the weekends with friends, and of course training for the next race. So a piece of content for someone who's brand new is 10 reasons to start mountain biking. And for our weekend biker, we do a bike review, or we talk about the best mountain biking spots in the area. Of course, if your business isn't geolocated, then you can just target areas or create content in areas that you know a lot of your customers come from. And then of course finally we have our veteran, who might even be a racer, and we would talk about 7 trails to improve your endurance. This would be another targeted one. And then advanced tune-up guide. So as you can see here, there's a lot of different types of content you can create with those 3 categories of how-to, decision guide, and review, but you don't necessarily want to make it for everyone at once. You want to make sure that your content really is splintered down based upon your ideal customer's experience level. Now the final piece of your YouTube content marketing strategy is going to be the call to action. Now something that's very important is when you're creating content, not all of your content has to have a direct call to action to purchase your product or service. There are actually 3 different calls to action you can have. The first 2 have actually been used in this video. So you'll notice earlier in the video, I referenced links below to other videos. And you have a general idea of who your ideal customer is. If you don't, I'll link up in the description to a data-driven method to figure out who all those ideal customers should be. And then in the previous section, I talked about using affiliate links when you are talking about a product or service that isn't something you actually sell yourself. So you can use an affiliate program to actually make some income off of the content that you're making. And then of course, the third type of call to action is actually going to be a direct call to action to the next step in your sales process. So what's really important though is you want to have one of these 3 calls to action, but you don't have to have the call to action to sign up to your email list or buy something every single time, because then your content and your channel is just perceived as a giant pitch. And so what you want to do is also with this experience level, you'll be able to see, you know what, if I do a really basic piece of content, why don't I link up to something that's more advanced, and in that piece of content that you linked to is where the call to action is to actually purchase your product or service or opt into your email list. So when it comes to your calls to action, you want to make sure that not every single video is driving people to your sales process. It's okay to have affiliate links in your description, and it's okay to link to other content where that content actually leads them to a product or service. So here are 2 very basic examples of how you could do the third call to action, moving people away from YouTube. The first would be for some sort of webinar. So if you want to learn more, check out the YouTube growth webinar here. You just link up in the description with the webinar link. Or if you've gone through something really complex, you can offer a free strategy call, which of course would be a sales call for you in order for people to connect with you and help them with whatever the video tutorial was about. So if you're doing a how-to content, these two types of calls to action work really well. If you're doing a decision guide, then you can link up to a review, and then that review can link up to an affiliate link, or it can link up to your website. So there's a lot of different ways you can link, but just keep in mind that when you link to an external site, YouTube is not going to rank your video as highly as other videos that don't have external links, because YouTube at the end of the day wants people to stay on YouTube. And so if you can integrate content linking into your strategy, then you'll be able to have pieces of content that link to other pieces of content that actually ultimately drive people off YouTube. So that way you have content that YouTube really likes, and then content that YouTube kind of likes, but not really. So thank you so much for watching. I sincerely hope you got some value out of this video and you have a much better understanding of what you can do for your own YouTube content marketing strategy for your business. If you have any questions, go ahead and comment below. I still read and reply to every single one. So hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dive marketing videos just like this one, and until the next, keep building the business you love.